This podcast is presented by the Petite Victory Collective. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Modular Stories. In this podcast, I would like to create a platform for people to share themselves, their stories, their experiences, and their life lessons. Before each episode, my guest can build and patch their own background music with the help of my modular synth. My goal with this podcast is to inspire the listeners, spark their creativity, and to share these incredible people I get to talk to with the world. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Modular Stories. Today I have Donna with me. She studies fine arts at Artes. And yes, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
So I'm Donna. I'm in the second year of fine arts right now. And we actually met during Pleasure Island, which is a multidisciplinary project that Artes hosts. And so actually our first interaction was doing music together in a way. But
Yeah, it was a very intense way of getting to know each other. I felt like we just were thrown into a room together. Yeah. Then it was like, okay, do 15 minutes in the next 4 days. But
yeah,
I think it was also nice because you really learned a lot about the person, like working. It's not like the normal, hey, how are you doing? Who are you? What are you doing? But it was just like, okay, now work together. And it helped a lot to like get to know people.
Yeah, and I think also you don't get the time to think about think really. Like it's just like, okay, in 3 days it has to be there.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like quick decision making.
Yeah.
And then the process is also much quicker than other projects, because you could spend months on a musical, but we whipped up a burlesque. Yeah, that was it. Burlesque mini musical in a flash, you know.
So it was super fun.
Yeah, and also kept it playful, because there were a lot of serious projects also, which is also nice. But I think for getting to know people. Yeah.
And it was super nice for us, because in our group we were really like on the same page from the beginning. I felt like there was just minimal stuff of let's not do this, let's not go there, but it was really everybody was on the same side, and everybody wanted to do the same thing and wanted to keep it playful. So it was really easy to kind of work together. Yeah. And I was super impressed by you, because you were singing, and I think you also play bass.
Yeah.
But you technically study fine arts, and it was like a whole new world of like, okay, she's super talented. Like, what are you doing and what can you do? You know?
That's so sweet. Well, for me, Pleasure Island was in a sense also like a very big thing in this sense, because for me it was like the question: am I gonna go into fine arts, or am I going to go into music? And then the decision I made was based on the idea that even in fine arts I could pursue music.
Yes.
But because I have so many hobbies and interests, I thought I could maybe coin them better in fine arts.
Yep.
But it was also the first year, and it was a very hectic and long hour schedule. So to be able to actually get together with we played with Gerda and Max, and with composers and musicians, and to work with that musician side of me also. It was super nice, because it's difficult to seek out those opportunities when you're in a different department.
For sure. No, I totally get that. Well, how does fine art look for you in the first year? I don't know a lot about the study, so like, what do you do actually? I have no clue.
Yeah. Well, the first year, as I've just ended it, it basically constitutes of because I think from this year on they have like project weeks, so they have like 1 week of painting and 1 week of like video. But the way I had it, I had a fixed schedule. So on Mondays I would have 3D, so that was sculptural work and also installation and some performance. And then you're just busy the whole day. And on Tuesdays I had tutor, and we have a tutor that is basically a mentor, practicing fine artist that is kind of mentoring you in your journey as an artist. And then on Wednesdays we had printing and painting. Thursdays was film, and Friday was animation and theory.
That's a lot.
It was a lot, yeah. And that was like for the first semester, basically. And the second semester was more so, we still had the classes, but it was like you checking in and talking with the teacher about what you're doing. But then the rest of the afternoon, you could go and do your own thing, you know.
Okay, so more individualized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think also as an attempt to help the students build up a studio practice, because when you're in the first semester, it's very, you're very productive because you're constantly forced by deadlines. But eventually, in 4 years, when you're done, no one's going to force you to make anything. Because fine arts usually, like gallery fine art, as opposed to commercial fine art, is not necessarily based on commissions. It's, So there's no one's gonna tell you what to make or when to make it or in what medium. So it's really about, showing you all the techniques and all like the things you need to know to broaden your perspective on what art is also. And that's also with the help of the theory classes. Yeah. And then in the second year, you just get a lot of time and it's like, go make stuff.
Yeah. But I think that's super cool that you have like kind of this introduction into, okay, this is the options. This is anything you could do, and then you can try to find yourself in that. Because I felt like for our department, it's a bit different because we also get thrown into everything, but it's less focused on what we are as an individual. Yeah. Because we all do the same projects, and there you have to find your individuality in these projects. But there's it's more limited in range. Yeah. I would say, and I think that's super cool that you kind of have the option to explore everything and really find yourselves and find out who you are and who you want to be in art, and what your voice is and how to channel that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, although, like, what your education constitutes also, like, last year, I know some second years wrote sort of a manifesto. Not actually a manifesto, but a very long email.
Counts.
Yeah, counts, manifesto email. But about... sort of the lack of skills that are imposed on you. Yeah. No one's telling you what to do, so also no one is teaching you the ropes of how to do very specific things. Like we get this introduction to animation, but if you want to actually learn how to animate, you have to spend your own time on that. And it's not really enforced, kind of. So... Yeah, you could leave the academy having done what you've always known. Yes. In a sense, but of course we have many tutors and mentors to prevent you from not learning anything. Yeah. Yeah, and it's also, I think, important to take your own initiative. And for me, that felt very natural to go seek other things because. Like we connected over music. For sure. And also last year I went to basically all the music, jazz and pop finals. Yeah. I was like so excited, and I actually thought, oh shit, should I like switch? Should I have switched? But it's actually because I have all this extra studio time. Yeah. That I think, okay, fine arts. Yeah, it's such a broad definition. It has such a broad definition. Yeah, I could also, maybe follow something in the conservatory. So I tried to get singing lessons or bass lessons or something, but they didn't have the budget for that. But now I'm taking private singing lessons from a teacher, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
and but I'm also in the second semester doing creative writing course with the creative writing department, and those are the kinds of things. And I know a lot of fine arts people do that. Like someone that graduated last year was really into drag and sourced or found their way into this performance art world. And so I think it's about taking initiative, but the tools are there. You just have to reach out.
That sounds super fun to just do anything. I mean, it's also scary, but it's nice to have the option. How is then the audition process for you? Like, what do you have to do to get into fine arts? Or what does it look like?
Well, the audition process was it's not audition. It's for us it's admission or application,
okay.
And we had to do 6 home assignments in every like conventional medium. So painting, drawing, video, sculpture. We had to write something, and we had to one more thing. I don't remember.
That's all right.
But I actually have the privilege of being admitted straight out of high school. And I know sometimes they reject people based on their age, or that they're just a little too young still. I know. But I had the privilege of being accepted despite being straight out of high school. But that also means that my admission process was during my high school final exams. But and I'm also very perfectionistic. So I was trying to keep my grades up and also do my best at the admission procedure. But of course I knew what to prioritize. Like the admission procedure, like had the priority 100%.
Of course, you do the school to get into
university. So I arranged some things with some teachers from high school, so I could do things remotely, or if we had 3 hours in a week, I could just spend 2 of those we had a studio in school, like an atelier.
That's super cool.
And I was just there all the time.
That's super nice.
Working on admission and also my art final exam, because I took art in high school as well. And so that was really like a privilege to be surrounded by teachers that saw what I wanted to do and didn't pressure me into other fields, even if I okay, you're good at like I'm decent at French. But she only mentioned it once, like, oh, you could study it. But then once I vocalized that I wanted to go here, then everyone like was very supportive of that.
That's super nice. I think that's really important, especially in school, because there's also like a lot of things to do, but if you know what you want to do, then teachers supporting you, and that is super beautiful. I had a guitar teacher like that. He was really... I also had classical piano, and there I was like, okay, play this song, sheet there, and then you have to play it. And exactly. And but I also had a jazz trained guitarist or guitar teacher that I also did theory with, and he also like kind of became my mentor through high school. And with him it was super cool because he just sat there in the lessons, and I came in, he was like, okay, what are we doing today? He just gave me the freedom to tell him what I wanted to learn. And so really early on there, I had the chance to just focus on what I want to do and like have my artistic style or basic taste implemented on my learning, and that was super, super helpful and super, super nice.
I had a bass teacher like that. Back home, like he really was also a mentor in a way. Like I think that now I feel like we're both in a space where we want to be. Like we
100%.
worked so we could be here.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of time in which you're just preparing to go to the place where you want to be.
Yes.
And there's a lot of time in between. And the people that support you there that's so important. Like this bass teacher introduced me to Frank Zappa.
Oh, yeah.
And he continues to have a huge influence on my work, or at least on me as a person, and on my just general taste in music. And and also just great life advice.
Yes.
Yeah, just super good guy. And also my art teacher in high school, like she is an incredible woman. Actually went out for drinks with her just a couple of weeks ago.
Aww,
yeah,
that's so cute.
Because I was always very like hesitant, or like scared. Sometimes I was scared to show my work, or I was too perfectionistic, and she kind of, like helped me out of that, because she recognized a lot of herself in me.
Aww.
And that's like, if that doesn't sound beautiful,
like, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, I really like this education thing also.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
I feel like they're like, sometimes art feels a lot like craftsmanship. You need like a mentor to start out. You need somebody to teach you how to be yourself, and who to be and what to do. So like I feel like it's really hard to just do that out of your own instinct and just be like, hey, I want to do this, so I'm doing this now. So to have somebody that like takes you by the hand and takes you like, hey, this is how you could do it, but gives you the freedom to explore is super helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an interesting thing you say also about art being craftsmanship, because that's like a whole discussion in fine arts. But definitely, and there's different approaches to that in the fine arts context. But
so what's your approach on that? What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, it's a difficult thing. Because you have this kind of notion of like things can be very formal, so surrounding form and aesthetics maybe, and things can maybe surround content and be more abstract. There's also this, like a lot of contemporary art is very difficult in a sense that it's not really approachable for people that are not already into art.
Yes.
Which makes it this like weird selective club of people that go to galleries, because I mean, I still get nervous when I go to openings or galleries, and it's like, I'm doing this, you know? It's like, why? But so I think now I'm leaning more towards an approach that also one of our tutors has. He's very focused on form. So if you see his work, it's very approachable, and it's very aesthetically pleasing also. But he says, like, for the people that want it, there's deeper layers. So that's also why I think I find it important that my work is research-based, and that and I'm very interested in art philosophy and like theoretical concepts, but especially surrounding language. But I don't want it to look difficult from the start. So that's like, there's this balance between form and how much of it is like, where do they intersect, kind of. And craftsmanship is also of course a part of it, like because craftsmanship also has to do, for me, with doing the things in a way that they're supposed to. Like, it can feel very perfect in a sense, craftsmanship. So let's say you're building a violin. That is like peak craftsmanship, you know. And there's like very specific ways of doing it. And I think craftsmanship is super interesting to be used in a fine arts context, because usually craftsmanship has a very distinct applied role. So, for example, building violins or hand weaving carpets, like, or tapestries, like they are very applied. And then to bring them in this very free fine arts context, it's like, wow, like you're taking something very applied into this other context to, and this other context changes what it does also. So I think that's super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of like discourse.
No, I love this because I had a lot of trouble with that last year as well, because I didn't really know what art was for me, and I never thought about it because it was always just, I don't know, I was very intuitive about my work, so it was always just
beautiful quality, by the way.
It's super nice, but it also is scary because you have to rely on yourself. Like I just do things that I like, and I just do the music that I like to do, but in that it is hard to like say, okay, is this art now, or how much is it actually art because I intend it to be art.
Yeah.
But I just want to do things, I just want to do stuff. I want to do music. So how much of this could I say is art, or do I want it to be art or anything? Because if you break it down, also, especially film music is in a way also just craftsmanship, because you're just, it's a service to the movie, but you not do it like autonomously. You are supposed to help a bigger story.
Yeah.
But in that sense, of course, there's also art in it, and you can do it really artistically. But if you break it down, there's also a lot of craftsmanship in there. So I always struggled with these two kind of way of thinking about it, and I don't know what to think, and I'm still like really stuck on it and really open to other people's opinions. So I super like that you tell me this, because it's super helpful for me to like see it in a new way, and then try new things out in a different way, and see things in a different light.
Yeah, I think it's very good to just play with this, because I know the first semester I was very conceptual, and I think that's also because I felt deprived of that before that. Like all the things we were doing in high school art class was just like model drawing and like and it's cool, and also like maybe like some oil painting stuff or acrylic or whatever, but it was always like portraiture, realism, and it just felt so far removed from it felt so devoid of meaning. So the first semester I went all out, and I was like super conceptual, but to the point that there was barely anything there, because I was so up in my headspace and thinking of all these things, and then the trick is the difficult part, I mean, is to actually make the object you're making convey this. And I think, and then in the second semester of last year, when we had more freedom, I was playing more with form and with material. And then someone asked me like, oh, but why do you, because I in the past semester I painted a lot on cheesecloth, which is very thin gaze, like almost like a sieve, like sieve, and someone asked me like, why do you paint on this? And it's like, I don't actually know. I just really like the material, and it's interesting to me to figure out how to paint on this, but also maybe to step out of this craftsmanship thing of painting, because traditional oil painting is always done like on linen or canvas, but traditionally on linen, and then you prep them in a certain way, and then you put gesso on it, and this is how you make canvas frames, and this is how you create certain effects with oil. There's like also this kind of whole rule book how to use it, and I kind of wanted to break free from this like convention, not to be quirky or anything, but to also not that perfect get in the way of good, to just say, okay, this is a different material, I like the feel of it, and it's way different, and it's still cotton, so it's like probably still works, and it's durable, yeah, I don't know, like.
No, I totally feel you. I had the same thing. I had a lot of like talks about like who am I as like who's my artistic identity or who am I as an artist, and I was just like am I an artist really? Like why? Like I'm not trying to do art. I'm just doing things I like, you know. And there was always this talk about like meaning or you know, why do you want to write this piece or anything, and I was like, oh, I just. It's what I like to do.
Yeah.
Like, I spend my time like this, and this is just I love it. But I never had the intention of doing anything like because of a certain style or because I wanted to do this or try out have a meaning behind it. But it was always just like me, and I had a hard time as well trying to figure out, okay, is that okay? Can I be an artist by just being me, or do I have to have a meaning? Do I have to have like a deep thought behind everything? Does everything have to be meaningful to everybody, or you know, how do I work around that? And because it really went down on me, and I was really like getting stuck in things because I was like thinking like, okay, is this now okay to do? It was really weird. And it still is. I haven't figured it out, but I just continued doing things and not bother with the question behind it. And just was like, yeah, I don't care. Maybe I'm an artist, maybe I'm not, but I'm just a person.
Yeah. Well, I think last year in the AV class we had, it's a film class. We had a guest tutor, and she told us to write thoughts we had down, and then we would pass them around, and then we would kind of link the thoughts to each other aloud as a sort of thought train. And a thought that came back and that resonated with me, even though I didn't write it, is when will I ever start believing I'm an artist? And it's like, yeah, do you believe that the things you're making are art because it is called art? Or I don't know. I don't know why everyone, because I also have issues with this, like calling yourself an artist. But yeah, because there's also this I think prevalent idea of or something. I don't want to speak for everyone, but what I had is sometimes it sneaks in that as long as I'm not making money with my art, my hobby, I'm not a real artist.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also like if you don't call yourself an artist for the art that you're making, then it's also, I think, other people, like people already have difficulties with like calling art, and that means also paying for it.
Yes.
Because like there's this also amongst musicians, because I've known in YouTube know a lot of musicians that just do free gigs all the time, but it's like that is also art, and making art costs money.
Yes.
And it's like it's also, I think you could definitely call yourself an artist, because otherwise you're also maybe perpetuating the idea that your art is then not valuable in a sense. Well, I think the things that you're making are wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I
like the way you whipped up that, like in the Pleasure Island, I was like, what? This dude!
There was just a lot of long nights and a lot of sleep deprivedness. But it was super cool. It was super fun. No, but I totally agree. And I had this weird conversation last year where somebody asked me if I was a musician or a composer. And there was like, was that meant in a mean way? Like, is there a difference between musician and composer? Because we also do music, but we don't play an instrument that well, or like, you know. And there I also went into this third character or a category of artist, and I kind of started to like calling myself an artist most now, because I feel like with being a composer, you're in this box. You compose music. But I also like to do other things. I also like to do videos or anything, or this podcast. Yeah. So I'm not just a composer, or I'm not just a musician because I play a bit of piano, but I'm doing things that I like. And I think only in that sense, I'm already kind of an artist. And if I believe in that, then maybe other people will also too. And maybe if I say I'm an artist, then whatever I create with the intention of being art is art from the start. That's right, nice. But no, in that I kind of felt like this artist label kind of gave me the freedom to do more of what I wanted to do with purpose than just saying I'm a composer who also does blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know?
This resonates with me so much because still I struggle with the idea that I have to find a niche.
Yeah.
And that I'm supposed to maybe pick a medium and and then devote all my time to this one medium and or pick the thing that I'm good at and approach it from like a craftsmanship perspective. But just last week I had this like little revelation because we're in this art world, right? Like with also the performative arts, like all arts combined.
Yeah.
And we see so many people here that are doing so many different things. And also I'm calling the employees. There are so many people that end up in different ways. And I have wonderful theory teachers. One of them who also studied fine arts, I think. So there are so many ways in which you will end up in a place. Also because you choose this direction. Like you make so many friends along the way. And it's like you will end up vaguely probably in the direction if you do your best a little bit.
Yeah.
I like to believe that.
Yes.
But to come back on the idea of finding a niche, that's for me, that's impossible.
Pressuring.
I think maybe temporarily you could really like go into something.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, also for many people the nature of their creative process. Like I also have that when I'm working on a painting, I'll be like only on the painting, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I might like to come to terms with the idea that I'm a bass player, but I'm not a world-renowned bass player. But if I make a video, which I like doing, but I'm not incredible at, I can also write my own music.
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't need to put yourself in a box if you can just use all your skills to your advantage in a way. Like I'm a seamstress also, but not like I can make my own clothes, but I'm not like the people here at fashion design.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. If I want to make a costume, I can make it look a little ragged.
Yeah.
Fine. And it's just
It's you.
think and then that combination, that constellation of skills is to me much more valuable than finding this niche philosophical thing that I build my entire practice around, because that would also feel like depriving my artist child, you know? 100%. And this is also what we talked about.
For sure. I totally agree, and I think you said that really beautifully. And I 100% agree with you. I had like two quotes that popped into my head. One is like by Tarantino, who once said that how did he say that? If you love film with all your heart and passion, you cannot make a bad movie. You just have to make good movies because you love that. Yeah. And there's also a quote, I don't know by whom, but it's basically, just do what you love. It's on music, but I think you can put it into life. If you do what you love, there will be other people that love that too. Yeah. So I think in that sense, it's really, as long as you feel like you're doing what you love, that's the best you can do, and that's the most authentic you can be as an artist and as a human being. So I think it can be like a safe strategy to find yourself a niche where there's nobody else like you, and that you will then have a spot where you can work in. But I also feel like that's super depressing, and that's why as an artist you don't want it, because as an artist, at least as an artist, let's put it like that, want to be free to do whatever I want. And in that I feel like that's super nice that we have the option to just do anything and to go into everything we want and just do what we love, and then people will love that too, and they will not only love you as an artist but love you as the artist, And I feel like there's been a huge shift lately in through like social media or anything, that it's more about the person behind the art as well, and not only about the art that is being put out, but you want to know the person behind it. And there's so much beauty in that, and it's so nice to get a sense for who they are.
Yeah, and I think also that this finding a niche, it like also like isolates you, as you said, like, and it puts a lot of pressure on you. But also what I'm thinking of is just that it feels like this supply-demand thing, right? Like, because there's little supply of this very special person with like this their tiny little niche. Then someone will probably take it, but I think it's also much more honest to yourself to kind of go into a field where you're able to collaborate more. And but it also has like a flip, like the other side of the coin, I think, because if you're in a niche, then there will also be people there, you know?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but I think I just really agree with when you do what you love, you will be fine no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's also what I'm thinking, like, okay, I love making art in every shape that it comes. But truth is, it's a very difficult industry, and there's not much money for us artists.
Yeah.
But by choosing this route anyway, you will find a way.
Yes.
Or at least a way that is much more close to your desired destination than, for example, studying economics or something else. So I'm also really glad, because I come from a family of 4 children. And I have an older sister, and we have quite a big age gap between us, like 8 years. And when she was down to choose her subjects in high school, my mom didn't really she didn't really understand why she would want to choose art, and eventually her interest wasn't that big either, so she ended up not taking art and taking up something else instead. But when it came, when she like finished high school, it was like, okay, she always loved drawing so much, like where that wasn't stimulated anymore. So when it was my turn to go to high school, I was allowed to do anything, and I really took the most like artistic subjects, and like I had music and art and all the languages and social sciences, like nothing of which I could become a doctor, so to say, you know. That would be very difficult. Like even with the math, like I took a specific weird math that's basically useless, but it's just like, you can pick a direction, and you will be fine if you just try to keep your eye out a bit. It's just such a bummer to see people not pursuing dreams, and I'm not there by any means at all whatsoever. But I'm at least in an environment that really stimulates
you made it to art school, and I think that's the most important step, because you chose to pursue that, and I think that's the most important step in that, is like believing in yourself to do that. And I think that going to art school is not an easy thing to do, because we have like admissions and we have everything, and it's not easy to get into art school. So I would say you've already like achieved a lot, and in believing in yourself there, that's opening up everything. Letting the day in. That's opening up everything for you to do whatever you want, and you have the basis there. So you've already took the most important step, I would say.
Yeah,
in a way.
And also admissions are not to scare people away.
No.
That's not what they're for. I think that's super beautifully phrased. Yeah, but that's also what we said. Like coming here, I was kind of like scared, like, oh no, I'm not gonna have anything to talk about. Like, who am I, to go sit here and like. Also, because this ends up on the artist website, I'm this sort of second year nobody who just goes up to a podcast and talks. But
I think no one is a nobody here at RTS. Everybody has a story and everybody has something really unique about them. And that's also what I want to do with this, is find these people like you to just talk about who they are, because I feel like you're a very, very special human and a really nice and inspiring human with all your different fields and your story of, and that's would be my next question anyways, is your story of how you became who you are now and how you got into art. And it's always really beautiful to hear, and there's so much inspiration in that inspires me to do more art or to go into a different direction or to research about certain things. So it's super inspiring for me always to talk to people.
Yeah. Well, how I think I started out as like a lot much like a lot of people actually. I was just from like basically the day that I was born, I was already drawing and
Nice.
and I really liked to draw. And then I had this phase where I was only drawing horses for some reason. And then came
Horses are
portraiture. Cool. Yeah, horses are cool. Never wrote. Oh, I did write one. But yeah, wasn't really my thing, but I liked drawing them. And it was just, and then it turned to painting. And then when I was 12, I picked up bass guitar. And then, yeah, when I was 15, I learned how to sew clothes for the first time. And it kind of came to this point where I was picking up so many hobbies along the way that I was just choosing to do to spend all my free time in the studio that I actually got. Because my brother, so yeah, I come from a family of 4 children. My brother moved out eventually because he's 10 years older. He moved out eventually, and I just called dibs on his room. So I had my own room here, and the other room, because we had this extra room now, and
it's a dream.
It was a room for everyone.
Yeah.
But mostly my sewing machine was there, my music equipment was there, and my easel with my paints and my stuff, and I was just spending all my time there, and I think through that I had these basic components of just hobbies, and I had some really great friends around me that were all musicians. So we'd sometimes like I did that a couple times. They'd host a jam session like at someone's house, and then I would paint or something, or
cool.
I was asked to design an album cover or something. So it already became very collaborative very early on. And then also COVID hit, and I was together with this friend of mine, and he's a musician, and I guess I just made a lot of music during the time, and I didn't really pay much attention to school, which was online, which is again like a privilege.
That was super hard though. Like online school to focus on that. So I totally get why you.
But I guess I work in a bit of a different way. Like I work much better when I just get the assignment and I'll figure it out myself. Like I really dreaded sitting through all the classes, and eventually I passed everything very well. So I was met with all this free time and just constantly stimulated by these friends around me from a musical perspective, which is also why I wanted to go to conservatory as a bassist initially. But because along the way I picked up all these hobbies like painting, and I had a bout of poetry writing, and during COVID also I took a huge interest in stop motion animation, and there were just so many things, and also like VHS glitch things that I was doing with this friend of mine, and all these things kind of accumulated, and then I was just like, okay, I'm about to graduate. Like where I'm gonna put this all this stuff, because it's not one passion, but it was many passions that I thought I needed to do something with. Yeah. So then I just decided like, okay, maybe fine arts would be the place to and I knew this from early. I knew this earlier, not like as I was about to graduate, but I was actively looking for something that would allow me to kind of put as many of the hobbies that I had at the time together, and to make beautiful things with that, and because I also doubted, like, maybe I should do French, but then in my mind I already had, but I also want to play in a band, and I also want to paint at the same time, and I also want to make my own clothes, and it's like, okay, like that's not sustainable.
Yeah, that doesn't work. No.
And still I have to like fight to sort of not do too much sometimes, because there's so many cool things and cool people at this school, and it's just there's already so many there are already so many things that I can do, kind of like that it was a very conscious decision that even though I don't come from one medium, although painting was my strongest point, but I don't come from one medium, that I decided, okay, I should go into fine arts.
But fine arts seems like the perfect place to just do anything you love and to become the artist that you are as a person. That's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, especially because over the summer I took an interest in writing, and I'd only written poetry before after a very dramatic heartbreak. I was just spewing poetry, but then that kind of sort of went latent again, and then it manifested itself again over the course of the summer, and it's like I thought, oh, did I make the wrong decision again? But it's like every time I think this, after a month or so, I'm like, wait, but this is actually why I'm in this major.
Yeah.
Because I have so many things that I find interesting. I can pour them all into my major. There's literally no wrongdoing. No, last year, someone graduated with craft brewing, beer.
Wow.
And she also painted. But that's also something you can do. Last year, someone graduated, and I helped her set up her exhibition. She graduated with an album and videos. So it was like this album about the life or the thoughts of an egg, a chicken egg.
Okay.
But it was super like extravagant with all the costuming and these things, and just all these different people that are graduating with so many different things. Like, it really puts me at ease. Like, okay, it'll find a form.
Yes.
Although I don't know that yet, what it's gonna be like.
Yeah. No, that's always a bit scary to look ahead, but I think it's nice to stay where you are and just be like, made it so far, it's gonna be fine. I have one more question for you if you'd like.
Yeah.
I always ask my guests this. It's about a theory called museum lives, and what the theory is about after you die, that you will go into a place that is your museum, that is the Donna Museum, and in there it depicts what you did, how you spent your time in life, and it's supposed to help you to find out if you found your purpose in a way, but also just to remind you of, if you like something, spend your time with it. And I would say that you probably already do this a lot with this very open and wide range of interests. But I would like you to wanted to ask you how would you imagine your museum, or what would you like to have in your museum, and is there anything you would change with that theory, or is it like you think you already are quite good on your route towards a nice museum that you would like to be in?
Yeah. That's super interesting. That's nice. Yeah. I guess I really, in this museum, I've envisioned having like a huge wall with like diaries. Like I write every morning.
Oh, wow.
3 pages. It's part of this I follow this book called The Artist's Way, and it's about like, I don't know, appeasing your artist child. It's super interesting. But I've really gotten into the practice of this, so I just want like a wall full of these like hand-bound little books. And probably a room full of broccoli, because I really like broccoli. And a garden, for that matter, because I think gardening is super nice. So to have a little garden, I also think, if I think of this like white cube museum situation, I think having a garden there could also just be an interesting thing from an art perspective.
For sure.
Like a thriving garden.
Yes.
So I think that's very interesting. And also maybe something related to education in a way. So either like this sort of continuous workshop of like maybe stop motion, or like not guided tours, because I think those are fucking lame, but I'm not sure how that would take shape, but I think that the collective learning and education are, I think, also part of the art of the future.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and also collectivism. So I think that's pretty nice.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah. And also like amazing music throughout the entire, just
nice
Frank Zappa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That sounds really lovely.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna look back what the others responded to this question.
It's always super interesting to see what people have. But
have you thought about yours yet? Your museum?
I had a hard time as well thinking about it, because I don't know. I think my museum would be also full of stuff and just random things anywhere. And but I like to look at my room at home a bit already as this museum.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have a bookshelf behind my desk, and there I also have books in there and movies that I love, but I also have anything in there. I have like little posters from the movies I made music for, but I also have like pictures from moments that really inspired me, or like little gifts from things. I recently added something. During the summer I worked in a company, and they had to do for company-wide competition of short films. Like they had to do like 1 minute short film about who they are as a part of the company, and every country that the company was in made a video for that, and they had a competition and like a voting. And actually, like, my video won. And so because of that, I got a little football and a little football helmet because the place where they had the final screening was in a place where they have a football team. Oh, yeah. So that was kind of the prize for winning. And then the company gifted me that, which is super, super nice. So I just added that little football helmet in my shelf. And I like to look at that shelf as my kind of museum already. So I'm trying to keep that more actively in my head and remind myself more often about, okay, do what you love and this is okay to do. So but in general, I would say of course music, of course film, like I would love this podcast to be in there, but I also like a huge fan of just collaboration. So I would like to have a little feature section about different artists that I also worked with in there. So I don't want the museum to be about myself only, but I would like, hey, this is like a director that I worked a lot with. This is a musician I had a beautiful time with, and focus on other people and on my friends and on my family as well, because they're all on my mentor. Yeah. Because they're all so integral to who I am, that I think a museum about just myself wouldn't do it right. Wouldn't make it right, but I would have to include a lot of people as well that help me shaping who I am.
Yeah, we have a subject called artistic research, and we call this exactly what you're describing now, a kinship chart.
Kinship chart.
And kinship is actually refers to family that is not blood related. Oh. So kinship is kind of like your artistic family.
Wow.
And I thought we had to make our own kinship charts. So I put like Joni Mitchell, David Byrne from Talking Heads, but also like a bunch of visual artists, but also a lot of people that are maybe not even visual artists, you know, but just maybe certain materials, but a lot of them are people.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice, gratifying experience to make this visual chart of all these people that you relate so strongly to, and that are kind of mentors for you, even if you've never met them, or like directors that you look up to, or like composers, or musicians, or people that you music that I listen to while working or something. Like, yeah, that's beautiful.
That's super beautiful.
So yeah, definitely. I add to my museum a kinship chart.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's super beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This
Thanks
was
for having me.
beautiful talk, and super nice that you were here. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.